Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Supernatural Substation, or welcome if you're new. I'm your host, Eileen Fastenio, and my co-host, Bernadine Richardson, will be joining me soon with tonight's guest, Virginia Drake. Virginia is a seasoned professional with over 30 years of experience in education, social work, counseling, consulting, and motivational speaking. She has a master's degree in education from Georgetown College, a BS in social work from Murray, Kentucky University, and earned her teaching certification from Eastern Kentucky University. Virginia's life journey took a remarkable turn in 1998 when she experienced a miraculous healing following a major heart attack and a near-death experience. This had a profound impact on her life. Intrigued by the mind, body, and spirit connection, she embarked on a 20-year journey of intensive study, delving into meditation, natural healing, and the fascinating realm of quantum physics. Virginia will share with us the details of her near-death experience and will also impart wisdom gleaned from her dedication to understanding the profound forces that shape our health and relationships, and by providing us with the opportunity to explore the depths of resilience and healing that flow from our personal experiences with the mind, body, spirit connection. So that is our fantastic guest for tonight, and it's a show you won't want to miss. So stay right there. Bernadine and Virginia will be joining us after this quick break. Welcome back, everybody, to the Supernatural Substation. And with me now is my co-host extraordinaire, Bernadine. Merry Christmas, Dean.
Merry Christmas to everybody. Hope everybody gets what they want this year.
You got it all done? Did you get all your shopping and everything done?
Yeah, I'll put up a Grinch tree.
Yes, you were telling me about that. Well, that's good. I saw all of that kind of stuff in Hobby Lobby. I've got to do the traditional because I've got a fully grown daughter who is like, but mom, you're not going to put up blah, blah, blah. You fill in the blank, so it's all done. I'm ready except for the cooking. I've got all the gifting done, and it's a small pool that I have to buy for. So, but I can't believe that we're already here. This year, I don't know where it went. And there isn't a person that I talk to that hasn't said the same thing. Yesterday, I mean, and I have to grouse about the weather because we always do, because now it's going to be 72 degrees on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
So, but the next 3 nights we're going to freeze and have to bring all the plants in. But then Christmas will be, air conditioned on and sandals and stuff. So I wish I lived somewhere where there were just 4 seasons. So I actually looked it up, but most of the states were like, I don't know if I want to live there. They were landlocked states for one thing, with no coast. So I got to be by the water. But Virginia, I think, was like the top where you got 4 distinct seasons. That was the top state. So I just can't see me moving there. Up in the hills. Nope. That's Granny Witch territory. I'll leave
Not
that to
close enough to Walmart for us.
Right. You have to make a trek to Walmart if you live out. Now, I mean, if it had a beach, it would be different, but But anyway, folks, we do have our guest tonight, and she's patiently listening to us talk about our problems with the weather, talk about Christmas. So I would like to introduce and bring in Miss Virginia Drake. Welcome to the show.
Well, welcome to. I'm so finally got here. That's even better.
Yes.
Yeah.
And not everyone knows we went through a lot of trouble trying to have you on the last time. So I'm glad you rescheduled.
Yeah, well, and it's all perfect. It always is in timing anyway of the universe. It's always It's universal time, not ours. So
Yeah, and I get computer challenged too. So don't you're not alone with not figuring it out. Can't I've worked with them all my life, or at least most of my adult life, but I completely draw a blank. Like, what am
yeah,
I supposed to be doing? So, but
I,
I'm
this is
I'm
easy.
glad it all worked out.
Yeah. Well, I did, but it was so much easier this time. And I kept thinking, there's something wrong. Why did I go through? I went back and meditated a long time just to see what I did incorrect. I don't think we did anything, either one of us. I think it was not meant to be this way. So,
Well, that's I'm glad you feel that way, and not you're not offended because we couldn't do the show, so you agreed to come back on. But
yeah.
well, where would you like to start? Because you have a very long and very almost exciting, I would say, bio. So and I know that you're going to be talking about near death, and you're going to be talking about your experience, et cetera. But maybe if you just started when you were younger, when you were a child, and let's go from there. And did you have any? You said before the show that you were interested in the supernatural angle of all of this. So where if you'd like to tell us a little bit about yourself, from when you grew up and how you got onto the path that you're on.
Well, how I got started with my path is in my mother's womb because I was my mother's seventh miscarriage. And
Wow.
yeah, and I was born in 1951. So it's pretty amazing that I'm still alive back then. So yeah, nobody ever thought much about it. My mother had to make doll clothes for me. I slept in a dresser drawer because I was too small. I was only a pound and 7 ounces in 1951.
Jeez, it's
And
amazing.
it is, I look back at that. My mother used to tell me that all the time, and I just because I was just a kid, I didn't think anything about it. But the more I started telling people what I'd been gone through, they all kind of looked at me and said, "How come you're still alive?" Because I was okay. That was the first one. Then I was drowned. I drowned twice when I was 11 and when I was 16, and I had the out of body experiences with each one of those. I did not drown, but had out of body experiences. But I
Hmm.
was having out of body experiences all my life. I didn't know what that was though. I mean, I went back when I was in the fifth grade, and I remember, after I had my near death experience in 1998 from a heart attack, I reviewed my life. That's why my company's called Revision. I reviewed what really had happened to me all through the very beginning of my life to where I am right now. And it was amazing because drowning in the Kentucky River was an incredible thing at the age of 16, and have a profound experience with that. And I was going down, my cousin and I and another friend, we skipped school.
Mm,
And they had a wool blanket and they threw it at me when I went in the water, and it went straight down. Now, I was a lifeguard and I was a water safety instructor. And I knew that had hurt me more than I even realized because it didn't hurt me, but it pushed me down. But,
hmm
I remember going down on that one, and it was like, my mother is really going to be mad at my cousin because I'm her only child. So,
hmm
and worked hard to keep me here because I was her seventh miscarriage. So she's going to be pretty upset. And I remember as I'm going down thinking, my mother's going to be so mad. You think the weirdest things as you're going down. But as I was going down, I was very calm. I just knew that my mother's going to be mad. Now this blanket is still all over me, and all of a sudden I kept, they didn't talk to me. It was like lots of little lights,
hmm
and I couldn't see through the wool blanket, but I could feel them. And I looked down. It was almost, when you're in the supernatural, and you'll understand what I'm saying because this is what you call it. When you're in the supernatural, it doesn't match anything that's of reality ever. And
hmm
so I'm sitting down there and I saw all these lights down on the bottoms of my feet. And I thought, what in the world is that? And they were kind of saying, push up, push up. Well, and I thought I couldn't because of the blanket on top of me. So they just kind of came up and scooted up underneath me. And I could see the light then. And they pushed that blanket off of me and pushed it completely off, and then went down underneath my feet and literally said, we're going to push you up to the surface. And they did. And
Mm.
I flew up. And now I don't know how long I was there. I don't think I was there, but maybe I couldn't have been in there over a minute or two because I wouldn't have been able to make it. I think a lot of this was when you're in the supernatural, everything slows down anyway. So you're kind of in a whole different state of mind. So I was definitely in a different state of mind when I came up. My cousin was furious. Well, where have you been? We've been looking for you. And I thought, well, you threw the blanket. I was completely not aware around my surroundings at that time, coming
Mhm.
back. And then the next time I've been in 5 car accidents, and those kind of things, and the supernatural saved my life every time. And I mean, saved my life. The last one was with my youngest son. And if I hadn't have done what I was told to do and everything slowed down, we would have been killed. And
Mm.
we ended up landing over another road because we're in a country road. And we went right next to the fence. We didn't even touch it. Now, I did break my back. I saw my son when he busted his head because did not have his seatbelt because he was talking to me, and we were not in a good state at that time. I was mad at him, which I
Mhm.
look back at that. And I saw his head split open, but I saw the blood drops come out of his head, just like everything was in slow mo, everything. And then you land, and then you're back into the reality here. It's the most amazing thing because that's what happened to me in 1998 with my massive heart attack. That's exactly the way it was. It was slow, fast,
Mhm.
uh, people don't understand that they're in those time zones and they're not even aware. Because I've had a lot of people say, does it feel funny here? And I'll go, yeah, are you going slow? Is it too fast? What's going on? Because sometimes you're not grounded. And I've learned a lot about grounding, becoming aware when it's coming in, because I can go out very quickly. I don't have to do it hard anymore because I've done it so many times. And I was doing it a lot of times when I was little, like I was getting ready to tell you about when I was in the 5th grade. One day I remember coming back into the 5th grade, sitting in my desk, and the teacher had all these numbers or whatever they were on the board, and I thought, what is that?
Mhm.
And they said it was that what it was is that was multiplication tables, but I've been missing it. I've been out of my the class completely.
Mm.
And I was sitting there and I was asking everybody, I said, what is that? I mean, now my body obviously was there, but I was not present for a while in the 5th grade because I came back and I didn't know what that was. And they had to tell me that it was multiplication. I didn't even know how that worked. And I kept thinking, where have I been? So when after that, the big heart attack that got me into going back and retrieving my information, I was like, oh my God, all my life I've been in and out. I've never really been totally in on earth. If something would upset me or fear would come in, I would leave my body.
Mhm.
And this is where I found a lot of it when I was in college, because I was a social worker, I was a psychiatric social worker. That was what I was studying to be. And and then also being a water safety instructor, I was very aware. I had to watch things very carefully and become very aware. And once I learned the awareness of everything, I realized this is going on all the time. And most people miss it because they're not even aware that they're in or they're out. Most of the time, most people don't know. They just know that they're a little bit different. And I didn't know any of that until after my near death experience in 1998, because I didn't even know, I always thought people were like me. I just didn't know that they all couldn't see auras. I mean, I could see auras. I've been seeing auras since I've been a little girl. And I would tell my mother that, there's something not right here. And that she said, what? And I said, can't you see them, how they look? I would hated going into the hospitals when I was little because I could see dead people.
Mm.
And and I tell my mother, and they all raise their eyes. Oh, I've had that so many times. Oh, right, honey, that's right. You're just a little bit way out there, and you're a daydreamer. Your head's always up in the clouds. And I thought, no, I'm not. I'm really having these experiences, but you just kind of let them go. And also I saw a lot of demons when I was a little girl in my own bedroom. I mean, the door would open, my dolls would talk. So I lived in a
Okay, okay, wait, stop right there. No, no, no talking dolls. No,
no
what,
doll.
tell us about that. I'm wondering why the demons would come to you. I guess because of your ability, I guess, to see them, plain and simple. But tell us about that, because that's really getting onto the side of the supernatural reality,
Oh,
which
yeah.
obviously you have one foot in here and one foot over there all the time. But what was that experience like?
Well, the experience was I was terrified all the time. And I mean,
Mm,
my father and mother, I didn't tell them for a long, long time. Well, I didn't tell anybody because I didn't know. I was just terrified. I lived in underneath my bed sheets all my life. And I don't even know how I had any oxygen because I'd see the door. And this is truth. This is when the closet door would open up, I would see them and it would be the red eyes. And
mm,
I used to work with people and I would know that they'd had the red eyes. And usually if I found them, I said, have you ever seen the red eyes? They would turn bleach white. You
mhm,
do. It's like
mhm.
the one guy, the one being, and I couldn't say it was a guy, but it was different. And I must have been really, really sick because I woke up and there was a reptilian hand laying on top of my hand, soothing me because I was sick.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
oh yeah, I remember that very well. And I also knew that somebody would lived underneath my bed. And I remember telling my mother because I had a really big bed and it was one of the old beds that, came up off the floor. And my mother said, well, you could not have anything in there. I knew it. Now, every time I saw a Disney show like Monster Inc., oh my God, that
Mhm,
made I mean, that because everything was they went into the closets, they scared you. And this is what I learned from 1998, the heart attack, and then the practice of looking at what happened. Because I was always afraid. I was terrified of dark. I was terrified because I could see everything in the dark, and you saw the shadows and the movement and you can see the energy moving. It was very terrifying for me. And one day after I ended up getting divorced, and I came to my house, my old house on Angel Avenue, in fact, and I was sitting here or laying in bed, and I said, I saw the closet door open, and I here now I am in my 50s.
mhm,
And I remember looking at that, and this beautiful voice came in and said, if you're really, really afraid, we look like demons. But if you really understand what love is, we're angels. And I knew
hmm,
then what it's all perspective.
hmm,
If you have a perfection or a perspective about fear, you're going to draw fear. If you're going to try to see the world as open and more loving as much as you can in here, even though what you see on the outside, you're looking at everything from inside because everything is an inside job. So the more I could inform into my inside and bring it forward, the more things opened up to be easier to be with me on the outside. So I just realized we really are the most amazing beings and we are light beings. And that's what this is what taught me is that the electromagnetic field is alive and the spirit in us is alive. And this is what they're pushing down right now in all of this stuff that with the politics and everything. That's just a distraction. They want
mhm.
you to stay distracted so you'll never find out who you really are in here because they're afraid of us. And I know that for a fact. They're afraid of
Well,
us.
yeah, of course they are. I guess you're talking about the powers that run this world.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
we're
they're
scared.
afraid of us.
Oh, terrified because they know that we're much stronger than they'll ever be. But as long as they can vaccinate us, it's like cattle. It's like
Mhm,
cattle, like animals. So this is what I've been teaching for the last 27 years. That right there, that you think big. Don't let something hold you back anymore. Because if we don't start standing up together and stop this separation of politics and all of this. We all better stand together on this one, because it's going to take a lot of collective minds and frequencies to raise this up to a level that we can see the truth here. Because, I mean, this is what I've been talking about for 27 years. And it came strictly from that one heart attack in 1998 for 3 days. Well, really, the week before my heart attack, we had a farm. So I'd been out on the farm, and it was the next week is going to be June the 2nd. And I was also a teacher. So I was just kind of sitting down watching the TV, or nobody was in there with me. And this guy was in there on the TV, and he looked horrible. He's got all the, oxygen in his mouth, his nose. And he starts talking about, don't get a heart transplant. And I thought, oh, wow, I do 99, I think he said I do 93 or 98 pills a day. And I went, oh my God. Well, I already knew then there's no way I would ever get 98 pills in my mouth, one day. And he started talking about that, but he kept looking in the screen, and this is God's truth. He looked right at me and he said, don't get a heart transplant. And I mean, I looked around thinking, is he talking to me? And it felt like as he was talking straight. I mean, he came out a couple of times, and finally I raised my hand up and said, don't worry. I'm 46 years old. I walk 4 miles a day. I'm very healthy. I will not have a heart transplant, and I won't be having a heart attack. And then in the next week, I was looking at one.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and it throws you back, because I couldn't believe it myself. I even got in a hot tub. They couldn't believe I even got in a hot tub, because I thought I'd injure myself at 46. You don't think you're having a massive heart attack. So
were you clinically dead during any of that time after the heart attack?
No, well, I was out of my body more than I was in, from dying, because they thought I had the widow maker. That's what they called it. I didn't ever feel like I went out. My cats are what got me up to, because I think I was dying in the bed. And the cats, I had 2 cats named Ike and Tina, and they were they were excellent. They were gray, tabbies, and they loved me and I loved them, but they were on top of me, just staring at me. And I guess everything was pretty different. I mean, I didn't know I was dying, but I was dying. And I remember I always said, go into the bathroom and look at yourself. And when I walked in there, my eyes were already back into my head. Now I've seen people dead, who have died, and my face was bleach white. And this beautiful voice said, you need to go to the emergency room now. And so my husband at the time, before I married, divorced him, he was standing there talking to my doctor. And he said, well, we can go and get your, they were giving me some more pills or something, because they thought I had acid reflux and all of this. And I said, no.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Massive heart attack, and there's the doctor, the ER doctor. Oh, it's indigestion. Yeah.
Well, the week or 2 before that, I had acid reflux and had to go to the emergency room. So they were really thinking it was, acid reflux, because this is what one of the nurses said about 2 weeks prior to that, said, you'll think you're 1,000 times you're having a heart attack, but it's just acid reflux. Well, when they tell somebody like me that, that's embarrassing to me. And I thought, well, I'll just tell you right now, I won't be going to the emergency room. Well, this got so severe, especially when I got into the hot tub, that I thought I was going to have one right then. They couldn't even believe that I did. I didn't even get in it. I got my foot, I think I got one leg in and was putting the other one in, and it hit me so hard. I just got out immediately. And we had 3 floors. So I walked all the way up to the 3 floors. That's when my cats got involved, because they were all like this, and they kept watching me, and I thought, what's the matter with them? And then it was like, okay, I'm gonna go look and see what it is, because I heard it is, go in there. And so I looked dead. I looked really dead. And I've seen my father after he died, so I know what that looks like. So I came running down the steps, and Ron, my husband at the time, said, "No, and I said, "No, I need it now." And I remember being real pushy about it. Well, they all thought it was something else. So I remember when we drove into the ER in my little town, and this is how the ego works for you. So my husband was parking the car, and he said, "Here, I'm going to drop you off right here." Now, this is how he doesn't think that we're doing anything major, nothing happened.
Yeah.
So the receptionist said, I came in, I said, and I got my hands, and I'm in part, really the pain is bad now because it's all the way through my shoulder. It's coming back through. And I thought, God, and I said, well, I think I'm having acid reflux again. I was in here 4 weeks ago and I'm going on. And she's just staring at me. She said, "You go right on back." Now, aren't you never get to go all the way back. You got to sign on papers. And I thought, now see, she recognized me. That must have been one of my students. I mean, you know how special I am. So I'm going in, and one of my friends that I went to high school with, that's a nurse, Punky Brandenburg, she said, "What are you doing back?" And I said, "Well, I think it." And so they put me on a bed, and they were going on. And this nurse, I think he's a nurse, he said, "I remember her last time 2 weeks ago. Oh, it's just acid reflux." So they said, "Yeah, I think that's what it was." And I mean, I remember when they did that the first time with the acid reflux, they took me some like liquid stuff and it cooled everything down. I mean, it was like, oh my God, I could breathe. Well, this time they gave me the same thing. It went straight down and it ejected out of my mouth on the wall. And they said, "This is not acid reflux. This is a major heart attack." They threw me back down. I remember, and I left my body right then because I kept saying, "Did they say I'm having a heart attack?"
Yep,
Is that what
time to
they
go.
Yeah.
It's time to-
My body, my soul would zip, and I could see myself in the corner, my soul, looking at my body, looking very confused. And I thought, and I'm looking confused. I thought, how's that work? How can I be over there and I'm here? And then the next thing I know, that part of me came back in, and I really witnessed everything in my solar plexus. And I kept saying, "You can't look out of your solar plexus." And I saw everything that was going on, and everything is in slow motion. I mean, the nurses are going, "Oh my God, it's a heart attack." I said, "Did they say a heart attack?" Everything is real slow. And then all of a sudden, you're back in. And I thought, what is going, you're so confused. And then the next thing I know, here comes my principal, who is a nun. And she says, "I'm going to ride with her because her husband has to go get these kids." And I thought, well, okay, whatever. I was so confused. And I've been there. Now, this is what I thought I'd only been there like 15 or 20 minutes. I've been there for about 3.5 hours. So I didn't even know when I was out most of the time. When I came back in, I would see the things. So I can't tell you, but I never flatlined. I mean, they would have told me that. They just kept saying it. They just didn't know it's one of the worst ones they'd ever seen. So I don't think I ever flatlined, but I knew that they were all concerned because they were telling me, you just stay calm, stay calm. So here comes the other ambulance that's going to take me to Lexington to get the surgery or the stent. Because it's a blockage. And I remember when they were putting me on the ambulance, I heard the ambulance driver, he was pushing me, and the MT saying, "She's not going to make it." And I thought, I am really pissed at this man. He should never be telling anybody about, they're going to die. And I mean, I'm going off. I mean, I'm really going to. And I thought, wait a minute, why would he say things like that? But when he shoved me in, I went totally dark. And I thought, now, you know what? They should be having more lights in here. Do they not understand I'm having a heart? I am giving them a down, but I'm talking to myself, but I'm not in my body because the thing. I leave the ambulance and I drive right by it. And I'm thinking, this is not possible. I cannot be looking at my body in the ambulance and me riding next to it because I'm not in a car. You're really, it blows you away because you're thinking, how does that work? And I remember I felt like I was driving right along with the ambulance. And then I kind of raised up. Well, I didn't raise up, I kind of moved up and I could see the driver. And I thought, what if he can see me? No, they can't.
It would serve him right, Dr. EMT. They think they're doctors, but you're not gonna make it.
And I've kept, and because I'm also a water safety instructor. So I've got all of this information. I'm thinking, I thought they didn't even check my blood pressure. I'm giving them down the road. Well, the next thing I know, I'm no longer in the ambulance, but I feel like I've got a ponytail right at the top of my head, and there's a big jerk, and it pulled me right up, and I ended up sitting in a room of 12. I don't know if they were angels, they're elders in white, beautiful white linen, cloth dress. Plus, they had belts of gold, and you knew it was gold. And you think, now you don't see their faces, you see the hood. They had a hood on it, and there was a circle, a semicircle, and I would be saying something because I'm no longer with a body. I'm sitting here in a chair, and I said, where's my body? Where's my hands? How come where's my hands? How come I can sit here? I'm asking all the questions because I thought, you know what, if I'm going to be up here, I don't even know how this works. So I'm trying to figure it out. And you can't figure it out because you're not even in the state of mind that you could figure it out. But I remember I was asking these questions inside of myself, and they would giggle. I said, well, am I in a space area?
It's a UFOs.
You have a rocket or something? What's going? And they just laugh. And I thought, I think they're laughing. And I would think they're laughing at me. I don't particularly like them laughing at me. And they would laugh even more, because you're in a whole different state of mind. Then I remember, because I have a science background, so I saw all the planets going. I went, oh my God, that was a nova, and I'm going, there's stars. And all you had to do is take a breath and you'd go somewhere else.
Did you?
So, yeah. Oh, yeah. I went to Venus. But now you got to understand, these are things that you've been programmed and you think that's how you've been taught. Because I have a real hard time with planets anymore because I've done too much research about how this works. And you're going to use your belief system is going to interfere a lot to what is going to turn you around to seeing things. And I've really studied this because I had Jesus experience after all of this happened. He came and stayed with me for 18 months. Now you got to understand, I was raised as a Baptist. I became a Catholic because of my father. So I've got all this ideology and all this beliefs of what I saw. The best thing I ever saw though is Jesus. I saw Jesus a certain way, but also as a teacher at St. Leo's, because I was a Catholic educator, we had the smiling Jesus. And that's one thing he did show me, because I thought if I'm going to have Jesus visiting me every month, 18 months or whatever, it was about that. But he would come in every day. And I'd say, I'm going to ask him a lot of questions because I said, how do people see you really? He said, well, yeah, as they know me. And that is that exact truth. He said, your perspective will always be about what you know or how you've been trained. See, we don't even know what we're really seeing half the time because we really don't know who we are because we've been told who we are. We're told by our parents, we're told by our town, we're told by our teachers, we're told. Wonder if we all emptied all of that and found out who we really are. You might not have the same perspective on life at all. This is one thing I learned through these near-death experiences, going back and really looking at all my because I've had 9 near-death experiences or out-of-body experiences, whatever you want to call it. Because I try to explain to people with astroplaning, I said, everybody astroplanes. I said, if you're daydreaming, and I did this a lot with my 6th and 7th and 8th graders, you would see them leave their bodies. Their bodies
You
you would see them leave their bodies, especially when it's the spring is coming in. Kids are right out after lunch. We always had it after lunch. They were, sluggish, and then they let the kindergartners go out into the playground, and they could hear it. And I would sit there and I'd watch them. There they go. They'd be gone. And I said, come back to me, come back to me. And I used to do it all the time. And I remember a couple of friends of mine that are co-workers too, as well. They'd say, what do you do that? I said, I don't know, but I know they're not with me when, and see, I didn't know it that well then
Mhm.
until after 19. I knew there was a lot of things that were going on in class. I just didn't really know the energy of how it really goes, because I really recognized when I would come in really grounded into my classrooms, they'd be grounded. If I would see, and I can see, so I could see aura. So I used to see it when the whole class would come together, you would see a light bulb shine up on, and they were all connected to it. And I would be telling teachers this, and they said, no, no, we don't ever see anything like that. I said, I can't imagine. Everybody should be able to see that. And I just didn't know. I never asked anybody because I just assumed everybody could see it until I started teaching aura and understanding that the aura is where I was training myself, that you can see how things work in your in your body. My body talks to me. I mean, I just had a heart attack 3 years ago, and I was out in and out in 24 hours because I'm not afraid to die. There was no, I mean, the doctors just get freaked out. They don't like to really talk to me a lot because I know better than what they do. I said, you're not really understanding how this works. This is electrical. And I said, this is metaphysical. And you have no idea what you're talking about. You're only working on the flesh. And that's it. And if you go back into the Bible, and yes, I do look at the Bible, but there is a Bible within the Bible that has a coding that most people will miss because they've been trained and programmed to think another way.
Mhm.
And this is where the narrow road is. It's the narrow road is, can you see the real truth right in front of you? No, we get caught up in the unreality, but it feels real. But it's an illusion.
Mhm. Mhm.
uh, these people realize, and that's why I don't worry about ghosts or demons anymore, because I know that that is a part of the dimensions that we're involved in here. And if you can bring them in, if you're really powerful, and we had a collective mind, group mind, and we all I swear we could change this world in 1 second.
They
It's
won't
because
let you do it though because they're doing their I often describe it whenever this comes up, like modern times and what we're going through, as a spell. We're inside of a spell that was cast 1,000 or more years ago, and they're still working this spell with the goal of becoming gods of this realm.
absolutely.
That's what they want. They don't believe that there's anything outside the world, but they
No.
know that the spirits of humans can be enthralled to this world,
Oh
and
yeah.
their energy can be used if they can chain them. And so not visible chains, obviously, but supernatural chains, and they draw off their energy forever if they can keep them, tethered to it. I'm
Oh,
talking like people
yeah.
say, like
And
John Lennon signed a pact with the devil and signed away his soul. Well, he did,
yes,
unfortunately for
well, the
him.
Vatican does have 2 huge demons locked down and locked up. Oh, yeah,
Hmm.
because
Yeah.
I'm a remote viewer, and I remember going through the Vatican, and they're there.
Hmm.
They are
Oh
going to
yeah.
that portal, they're going to hit that portal.
Well,
Now,
they're there and they're in the ocean and they're in the pit. We always forget, we think these things are just like colorful language that Jesus came down and told St. John, blah, 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 blah. No, it's not, it's not. That's for real. Those angels in that what is in that pit is going to be unleashed. And sometimes I think it already has been,
well,
because the state of this world,
look at the people, look at their eyes. They're
Yeah.
dark. They don't have
Yeah.
a that a lot of them don't have a soul. And I mean, I try to explain a lot of times with my students. I said, when you're in a situation, raise your frequency, raise everybody up to you, raise them up to you. I said, then the ones who you can see that is not going to follow into that, that frequency. I said, watch them. And I said, if their eyes are like coal black, I said, walk away.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You can see the demons that are on them.
Oh my,
And a lot of
yeah.
times, I mean, and you can just be an average person with no understanding of this. And then you wonder what's wrong with that person. Like they'll go out of focus a little bit, almost like a morphine type thing. And the thing will disconnect for a minute and show itself to you, and that's pure evil. And that's what's got us enthralled to such a point where Jesus is going to have to come back himself. I mean, and he wants to, and a lot in Catholic belief, I mean, a lot of people say that, it's his mother continually praying for us and treating for us.
My ex-husband was molested by a priest, and the priest came to me after 1998. It was the next year, in fact. I never knew that my husband had been molested by a priest. I didn't even know. Here, I've got all these abilities, but when you're close to your own home, you don't see it.
Yeah.
And I was sitting on the toilet. Now, this is funny, but it's also very real. I was having profound experiences. The grass was talking to me. The bees were talking to me. I could take and tap my finger into the universe and it would just ripple down. And I thought, okay, there's something really going on here. Bad drugs, whatever I got into, I don't. And I mean, the grass, literally, the bugs, the birds, everything. Because when you come out of that situation from a near-death experience and already know you're not the same anymore, you're not. There's nothing you could say that could explain it to anybody unless they've done it. And I remember everything didn't feel right. I felt off, and I didn't speak for a long time about it either, because I was in the summer break. So I had 3 months just to sit and ponder what really happened to me. I thought I was really crazy, but I was going through a lot of this stuff. That's why I was telling you about the priest. So I was seeing profound things like glass, and things were happening in the house too. You could raise them up and things could, you could see shadows, you could hear things, and, things would open up, books would fall in front of you, the Bible would talk to you, a lot of things. But I was in myself, about nobody was there much. But I remember I was sitting on the toilet using the bathroom, and this priest walked through the door. And I thought, you can't walk through that door. He walked right through that door and he looked right at me. Now I am on the toilet and I'm thinking, how does this work? This guy's standing there. And I had recognized him because he was Father Wood. Now, I never met the man, but Ron's family, he ate there every Wednesday and he took care of Ron. He picked him up. They were poor in Louisville, Kentucky. And, this is what this is because now I'm a psychiatric social worker. Where did I work? Child abuse. Okay. So you can't make, and I'll be honest, you can't make this shit up. Not because I'm too much involved in all this. This is what I did for a living before I became a teacher. So it was like, okay, this priest he's not talking to me. He's showing me what he did to Ron.
Mm.
And it was like, oh my God. Well, this made everything perfectly aligned to why I was dealing with this man of 27 years. He didn't like me to cut my hair. He didn't like me to get fat. This is all from sexual abuse of a priest.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in the middle, used to thinking it's something wrong with me. And he's also, my ex-husband was a narcissist. He was a covert narcissist, going behind your back. He was having affairs. He was doing things, and then he turned my children against me. Now,
Mm.
this is a true soul group coming together because we've been together before. And I know that Ron and I've been together over, when we were in the Middle Ages, because he killed me when I was 8 years old. I felt everything. I saw him. I knew everything. And I remember when, after I had my near-death experience, one night we were making love, and that pain hit me. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember asking my doctor, is there something wrong? And I'm telling him, because he's my gynecologist. I always ask things. And he said, no, I don't think, I have a pain like that. Well, I'd always felt this pain with him, always. Well, so I went into a real deep meditation. Now, I used to meditate 16 and 17 hours a day,
Mm.
because that's how I was trained. I did not have teachers. I had outside, teachers that I got to bring in, and they came and met me here,
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah.
it trained me that way. I never had a physical teacher. I tried to find them, but it never would happen. So it was just like all this stuff came in. Well, guess what? I did take down the Catholic Church in Louisville. And what happened is that priest came to me strictly for this. He said, I can't move on because Ron has not forgiven me. And I said, wait a minute. Because now we're having a dialogue, but it's telepathic. There's no
Mm-hmm.
words, but and I said, well, I said, you have to forgive yourself, because this is the way it works, buddy. And I'm going on because I taught religion for 13 years on the Old Testament. Oh my God, you can't make this stuff up. So, I just look at all the things I was being programmed, and not programmed, but being readied to be able to do this work, because I
Mm-hmm.
was not thinking this is what I was going to do for a living, truly. So I remember he told me everything that he did. Okay, I already knew that. So I said, well, he said, please do something, help me. And I said, I'm not going to help you, because my husband at the time, all of this is coming in for a year after my near death experience. They think I'm crazy. They've told everybody. They tried to commit me. They thought, they said I'm lost my mind. I'm talking to the grass. They even talked. Oh my God, it was horrible. It was absolutely horrible.
Mm.
I had nobody to talk to. All my friends, I was very highly respected in my town. I was in the country club. I would, taught, school. I taught swimming lessons for everybody. I mean, talking about getting knocked down one couple of notches. They were scared of me, and they thought I was sick. I remember this woman said, well, you've had that heart attack, not enough oxygen to the brain. So we all kind of understand. I thought,
They think I'm crazy.
they did. Oh, but the funny thing is, since I've been doing this for 27 years, and then I got into these videos, and all of a sudden, these videos, they're coming from everywhere. I've been around the world, in Vietnam, all of this, talking about this kind of thing. And I thought, this is so appropriate, because I have always been under the radar. I never, ever advertised. They find me
Mm-hmm.
way I wanted it. And that's the way and the universe of God told me, you will be taken care of. And I have been,
Mm-hmm.
totally. But and it's not faith, it's truth, and it's knowing that you can do this. And this is a matrix, and you can walk right through this, but you have to raise that into a different frequency. It's not really hard. It's very simple, but people have been so programmed, they don't realize that that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know, and it's simple. It's simple. I've been teaching my nephew, who's 26, and he said, Aunt Jenny, we never really, we always kind of thought you were a little crazy. And, and I said, I know, honey. I said, but your mother never thought it. She said, no, my mother really, and she knew, because she loved doing ghosts and everything, but she never did do it with me. But and then when he started and I'm just talking to him about just how to find out the inner awareness of who we are. I said, because your soul will talk to you. I said,
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I was trained, though. I was trained with Socrates. I would have our Roman soldier, but I would be doing this also in my classroom, and I didn't even know that's what I was doing. I was channeling these characters that I was coming in, and I just thought, I just didn't know that was channeling. I didn't know. I don't even know if it was channeling. They would come and talk to me while I'm still teaching, and they said, "No, that's not the way it was." Or the Egyptians would come in and say, "No, that's not what we do. This is how we do it." And I thought, "Oh my gosh!" And I'm thinking myself is that, "Oh, look at all those books I've read. That's got to be why I knew that."
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because I didn't know either. And then when you really get, I guess you get knocked really hard that I wasn't just reading books. I was having experiences. And
Mhm.
I've been having experiences as a little girl all my life. And it was almost like tears that I'm not crazy
Yeah.
because, yeah, I'm just not crazy. I mean, I would be talking to some friends and they go, "Man, I don't know about you, but I've never had anything like that happen. What the hell's
Mhm.
wrong? Where'd you get that? What in the world?" I said, "You didn't have any of these experiences?" No. And I thought, well, there's something wrong with me. And then my
Yeah.
husband coming in, and we didn't have kids for 7 years. And he would say things, that he said, "You're not," he would think that I wasn't very smart. I'm the one that had the degree and degree. But
Yeah.
because I believed in him so much, and he knew how to play me. He really, I mean, it was an incredible time to be with these people in my life.
Mhm.
But to walk out and leave them, and they have no idea my older son was getting ready to hit me. I was under domestic violence,
Mm.
and, he was getting ready to hit me, and he couldn't. And that's when everything in the kitchen, because we were all having arguments, and I don't remember the whole thing, but it was, and then everything went into slow, and I knew exactly who it was. I knew it was the Holy Spirit. Had been in there many times, being with the Holy Spirit, everything gets slow. And
Mhm.
so I heard as plain as day, "They're going to hurt you. You need to leave now." And the back door opened up by itself, and I walked out.
Well, that's good. Somebody's got your back.
Oh,
I
well,
know it.
my kids, to this day, because my ex-husband is no longer with us, but my kids said, "Mother, that didn't happen." But you got to understand, this is where people need, especially people that have the abilities like we do, they need to understand they're in a different world than everybody else. And I mean, my son, when he heard one of these, somebody sent him some of the videos that I'd sent, and my son called me up and said, "You are lying, Mom. Don't, why in the world you standing up there lying? That door never opened." Well, I said, "Brian, you don't understand what you're talking about." Because, yes, he's exactly right. For him, he didn't see that.
Mhm.
Me, I saw I saw the door open because you're not in the same state of mind as they are.
Yeah.
And I teach this all the time because people really like what we are. I'm letting them feel comfortable because most people are not going to see it unless they wake up.
Mhm.
Everybody, I don't care what anybody says, there is not, for me, there is not any gifts here. We have these abilities. And when you said, when is Jesus coming? Jesus is here.
Well,
Jesus said
yeah.
right and told us. And I mean, he looked right at me personally and said, "You can do the same thing I can do. Why are you not doing it?" And I mean, he wasn't what I think. "Well, why aren't you doing it?" Very firm, very exact. I said, "Because,
What did he mean by that?
okay, anything he can do, you can do." And that's, go look at your Bible. It's right
Ra
there.
Raise the dead?
You can rate, well, I think you're healers. If we're
Mhm.
healers, you can. I am a healer. I see miraculous things. Just recently, one of my friends broke his leg, and he called me immediately with his wife has the abilities, but she's very, very into the church. It's hard for her to do this because it scares her, okay?
Mhm.
But I'm a healer. We brought his leg was broke, and so was his ankle. We pulled that all the way out, and I taught her while I'm doing it, because she said, Jenny, I just don't know. I said, it is not the devil. It is what Jesus Christ told us.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm doing exactly, do you know that man? Now he is 74 years old. I'm 73. He called me and he said, you're not going to believe this. They're not going to do surgery. They've never seen the bones line up so well in their life.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't have to have surgery.
Right.
Now, just casted it. Now, they had already told him when they saw it, they took him back to his house, and he was in such pain because they said, we can't do anything until it's swollen. But he said that he's going to have major surgery on this leg. And he called me and his wife, and we worked together to get the energy, because all this is energy. You are just an energy being, like Jesus Christ tried to tell us that we're light.
Yeah.
That and listen to his words. I mean, whatever you can do. And I remember looking at him, and we did the discussion about, he said, all I am is this. And he just turned into white light. And that's who I met when I crossed over in 1998. That's what God was light.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
An intelligent being. It has no flesh. It doesn't look like a man. It doesn't look like a woman. It doesn't look like a dog. It doesn't look like anything. It's light. The most rich light. It's a light that you'll never find on this earth. It's a different light. Now, if you get into a really deep meditation and really change the room, and that's what I do, I change the room, you'll see a different light that'll appear, because I've done it before. But it's work. But that's what I do, and that's what you all do. We all come together to do this. That's what we all came down for, not to see separation. When they start talking politics, I want to just vomit.
Well, I think that goes for everybody.
No,
Elevated or not, you're just sick of hearing it, for
Yeah,
sure.
I'm tired of it, because if they really looked at it, they're just puppets.
Of course they are. They know and a lot of them know they are.
Well,
Too.
yeah, and I've done the research. Now I want to tell you something. Since I had that one video that's almost 1 million, I've had warning letters. I've had because I studied about the Jesuits, and this is
Oh,
it's
now we're
real.
going. He's stepping into it. Yeah. Well,
I,
yeah. I
yeah,
mean,
I know
you can
it's that.
tell me about the video itself. I don't know anything about it, so
You didn't know that the one that hit 1 million, almost 1 million, Jeff Marr.
no.
Yeah, Jeff Marr. That's why I thought you called me. Jeff
Oh,
Marr. Yeah.
I'll leave all that to Dean. Did you see the video, Dean?
No. Mm-mm.
Oh, okay.
So how
See,
did
so
you
we,
even get to
we were
me?
brought together.
Well, it is because okay, this is how this happened. This is why I know it's supernatural, because I can go in and out of my windows. I was sitting here, I'm 73. At that time, I think I was 72. I was leaning down. I said, maybe it's time for me to retire. I'm just in there, and I just kind of go into a different state, turned around and looked in the mirror, and the window next to my computer, and I just walk out, and
Mm-hmm.
I turn around, and my body's sitting here. So I went out, and I go out and I dance with God. That's exactly what you're doing. I'm dancing with God. And I said, maybe I need to do, I'm kind of bored. That's what I am. I'm a little bored. Maybe we need to bring in some new, because I can just say, I would like some new clients. And next thing I know, I've got clients. Or I'll say, call my cards in, and you'll have people say, this is the weirdest thing, but your card fell out in front of me, because you're the is doing all of this. I mean, and if the strength that you throw it in and the energy behind it makes a difference. It's not about the damn words, it's about the energy behind the words.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, and that would be happening. So I came out of that and came back through the window so I can slide right back down in my body. And within 10 minutes, Jeff Marr had put Facebook me and said, I would like to have an interview with you.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Okay. Now, I've been doing interviews all the way since 2001. Do you think anybody really cares about, that? Well, they did later, but I mean, I've been doing radio and all of this forever. So, I said, sure. Okay. You got to laugh, you all, because this is not the first time. I've never seen anything like this in my life. Within the first week, we already had 50,000 people.
Mm.
And it was like, I called my friend Jeremy, who's dear. He's been working with me forever, and I work with. We're like partners. I said, "Get yourself over here," because I said, "Now he's in Florida, I'm here," and I said, "I don't know what to do." I said, "They found my phone, they found my address, they found everything. I've never seen." And I think we had 30,000 emails in less than 7 months.
Was that a good thing, or
No,
were you?
not for
Oh,
me.
okay. So
Not
what was the content? Because Dean and I haven't seen it. What was the content of the video about?
the same thing, everything I'm talking to you about, everything. And then they got another one because I'm talking about Jesus. You can feel the empowerment of this, though. You can
Mm-hmm.
say what a lot of the emails was about is they need people to stand up and be honest and full of strength to do it. Because I said, why are we not doing what Jesus said? That, and I mean, I said it very forceful. And, right now you think about it, that would be taking me into the cross. They're going to crucify me for saying that. But I'm not going to be crucified for something of the truth because we've been misled. And this is the way, I mean, and you believe whatever you want to, but this is what I believe, and I know because I've seen myself disappear. I know how to go into particles. I know this is what we can do because that's exactly what Jesus does. He's a metaphysician. He knows how to do this. He knows how the body came, and we were lied to our bodies. And my body is amazing to be able to do the work it does for 73. I mean, I just had my knee. My knee and my back has been hurting because it's a lower frequency. They lowered the frequency but upped everything else. So there's an imbalance, and my knee has been bothering me. So I had to lay down for about 5 hours before your all show. And I mean, I got into it and I moved my knee back into alignment.
Mm,
You
that's
can
good.
Well, you can melt, but it's not like people. I mean, this what I said. Now I went down in my body and I said, I've had enough. I mean, I've been dealing with this back and this knee for about 6 weeks, 7 weeks, because I've been really working to see why it hurts this way. I work with my body. And so I just had enough. And I went in and
Yeah.
I said, had enough. Now you can feel the energy of the Holy Spirit that comes in. And I mean, it's massive and it comes in and it just starts cleaning things out. And
All
then
right. Let's circle back around to how you got in trouble with the Jesuits.
oh,
No, I'm kidding you, but yeah, let's circle back around to that topic. What happened? You were talking about them. Is that what ticked some people off, or what?
yeah, oh yeah. Well, I got a letter from a guy and he said, and he was really nice. He said, we're really praying for you. I mean, I thought, but now a lot of people do because a lot of people think I'm an angel or they think I'm going to save their lives or I'm going to heal them. I'm not that kind of healer. I'm a healer to teach you how to heal.
Mm-hmm.
And it's mad because it can happen, but it's better for you all, the people I work with, it's better for them to heal themselves and learn about who they really are. So I got this letter, and I mean, he said, we're praying for you every day because they know you. The Jesuits already know who you are. They're pissed off about it. I mean, it was like a 3-paragraph letter, and that we're all praying for you because you're the only one that's ever stood up to the truth. And I thought, wait a minute, that's not true. That can't be true. But it's the fullness of what I'm saying. Because I'll tell you another thing is my husband was molested by a priest, and my sons hired a priest to do his funeral. And I thought I was going to have another heart attack.
Well, I mean, the church is in its passion right now, and it's full of Satan. It's Satanists. That's what it is.
Oh,
Ever since
you,
the Second Vatican Council, and that's
oh
that.
yes.
If you want to
And
put a date on it, that's
I
when
know
they came into the church. And
I was in Vatican too. I
I'm
became
sorry.
I was in Vatican II. I was the first one of the first Catholics to come into the Vatican II.
Okay. And you
Yeah,
went?
yeah. Oh, yeah. Not to the Vatican, but I got into the Catholic Church big time.
Oh, that's when you, okay. So you're that's Novus Ordo. I was going to ask you whether you were traditionalist or, because there's, I mean, there's a problem with the church right now from the top down, right? From the top down.
First of
And
all, I'll give you the whole history because the Jesuits have taken over the Vatican. And in 600 years, they've never had a Jesuit because that was the problem. And
yeah,
Jesuits have Zionists in it and communists and everybody else. And no, so they got the fifth pillar there. The Vatican has the fifth pillar, and that is homosexuality.
yeah, they are destroying the church. They are. And it's free. It's
Oh,
really, it's Freemasons right along with Jesuits, if you believe it all.
yeah, because
Yeah.
I know all of this. I did. That was how I learned this is literally spirit would come in every day and say, and I would like, you need to go over here. You need to do that. I would get in the car and take off. I'd get a book, find somebody. I mean, I live a great life because I don't have to do anything. It comes to me and it'll direct me where I need to go. I just follow through. And I've met Freemasons. I've met several. I've met Jesuits. And then I was telling you the priest that did my husband's or ex-husband's funeral, he was a Jesuit. He
Mm-hmm.
came to me, now listen to this. This is a younger man. He came to me because he found out that also I was the one that opened up the school at St. Leo's. Developed the junior high school. They asked me to stay there, and that's what I did. I mean, I was very dedicated to the Catholic Church, honey. I was very
Mm-hmm.
dedicated because of my
Mm-hmm.
father. And so when this priest said, I want to talk to you, I would really like to talk to you. And you don't know, my blood boiled for him just coming over to me because he was after the funeral. And I really wrestled with it, girls. You just don't
Mm-hmm.
know. I wrestled the hell out of that one. It was like, do I want to do it? Don't I? And it was like, yeah, you're going to do it. So I went in there and there was a conflict and he knew, and I was stronger than him. And I
Mm-hmm.
looked right at him and I said, you're a Jesuit. And when I said it, the whole room went,
Mm-hmm.
and I looked at him. I said, you know what that's from? He said, I said, does that do that often? He said, I said, you know what that's for.
Mm-hmm.
Busted it
Mm-hmm.
because I was so forceful with him. He was scared of me. Do you know though, the next 3 days later, I had a heart attack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds par for the course. That's what that sounds like.
Yeah. Well, I called him back 3 or 4 days later and I said, well, you didn't get me this time. Well, listen, you have no idea. I've had witches, I've had demons, I've had snakes in here. I mean, when you're running into this kind of bullshit, and I also did some ayahuasca with this shaman that's supposed to come in, and what he was putting in was spells, and he was causing people, and I could see, he didn't realize I could see.
Mm-hmm.
And then, boy, they were really upset because I started saying, you need to stop this. I mean, I blew the whole place up because they're coming into our small towns. They're taking the psychics and the mediums that are not aware and they're sucking their energy out of them.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
and guess where they're coming from? Hollywood. I got into this group and they wanted me to go to Hollywood because I ended up meeting several directors and actors
Mm-hmm.
and they wanted me to work with them because what they thought, this is what they thought. They thought I was about money. I'm not about money.
Yeah. And
And
then
they would,
then the second thought was that they could use you to make
oh,
money. That was the second thought.
or use my energy field. They did
Right.
attack.
Use you. Yeah. That they could use you. Because
Yeah.
that's what they did. That's what they're doing with all of, we've talked about this on the show before, a celebrity, take Johnny Depp, for instance, there are people who are, who just constantly think about, he has fans and he has more and more fans and all, and that feeds their energy, that makes
Yeah.
them the celebrity. And then you have these dark forces that are siphoning off that energy for their own purposes. And, you know, they do make deals. They make very concrete deals with these people. And, you know, then they end up with their spirits enthralled to continue to, you know, this machine of a spell that they've got going on, you know. And yeah, it's coming, the rot is coming out, but it's coming out of everywhere now, you know.
Ooze, because this is so bad and so deep, and you've already know this as much. If we don't clean this up, I don't know what the hell's going to happen, because I've never heard. I mean, it's bad. Well, Johnny
Mhm.
Depp, first of all, he came from Kentucky. His mother
Right.
lived. Yeah.
Mhm.
So we see Kentucky. We have got a lot of bad stuff going on here,
Mhm.
because we got the horses. We've got a lot of cult, you know, with horses, and, you know, and you name it, we've got it all going on. So
Yeah.
what we do is we end up cleaning up a lot of areas that we know, especially with there's covenants of death, where there's
Mhm.
been some things, you'll feel the daggone death in there. So you have to clean that up, because that'll draw anybody else back in. See, people don't understand how energy really works, but they know how it works.
Oh yeah, they've mastered it. They
Yeah.
they have mastered it, and they've managed to hide themselves.
Oh,
But right now they're kind of running like roaches, you know, because there's a lot of people that are being, you know, basically not woke, but awakened to it. They're seeing it with their own eyes. They're being shown it in their life. But that, you know, the battle is coming. I mean, it's not. We haven't won anything. We're just winning little,
well,
you know,
they're
conflicts along the way. But
yeah,
you know,
but hoping the weakness of us. See, I don't think it's going to take that many. If you've got that kind of understanding who you are, and what you are within,
mhm,
that's scared. Well, I know that scares you, because I was almost raped 3 times. And
mm,
in this process, when I was 19 years old, I had a force inside of me that scared the man.
mm,
And it happened 2 more times afterwards. And I mean, it's a force. I don't know how to explain it.
yeah,
It's the most powerful thing I've ever seen, but I'm telling you, don't have any fear at all. And you go right after them. And it's almost animalistic. And I'm not trying to scare people, but we have that kind of fire, you know, that fire and that force. If we don't
right.
start learning how to utilize that, because that's why there's going to be things coming in. I've already dealt with some of it. I mean, I used to see things that heads in the walls and all of that. And all that is illusional fear, because if you're not in fear, they can't even touch you.
True.
This is
That's
about
that's an occult foundation. I mean, if you're gonna curse somebody, let's even take it not just a cult. Let's take it down to like voodoo or hoodoo. If
yeah,
you want to curse somebody, the very and in witchcraft, you
yeah,
tell them. You go and you tell them. You know, I did
absolutely.
this to you, and this is what's going to happen. Or you're
Yeah.
going to die on this day at this time at that hour, and they
Oh,
do most of the work of the spell for, you know, the
yeah,
practitioners, or for these bokors or whatever is doing it, you know. That's half the spell right there.
I
And
know.
imagine that on a cosmic scale, because we are
Oh,
talking cosmic
oh,
scale
yeah,
with not just the earth. We're talking cosmic forces that are
absolutely.
involved in this, you know, that are like the greatest antiquity of these forces. It's been going on. We just happen to be alive right now, but this thing has been going on and on. But it seems like it's coming to a head. I don't know about a conclusion, but a lot of things are aligning that they don't like. So whenever they're uncomfortable, we must be doing something right. You
Well,
know, we're doing something, because
they do
if
a
they're
lot of.
not happy,
Yeah. But you know what? I had a beautiful, and it was like a meditation, but it felt very real. I remember I was a giant in the universe. I mean, a giant. And I remember looking down, and I was in 2 puddles, and all of a sudden I realized that was the oceans. And I thought, we are giants in
mm-hmm,
the universe. And that when you're a giant of that, if you understood that, what in the world? You don't need to really worry about it much. That's what they were
right,
talking always been talking about giants. See, giants are coming in. Dragons and giants are coming in. And dragons, yes, because there's ancient dragons
Oh
that'll
yeah,
be
I believe that. I
well,
believe that there were, because every culture across the world has a memory of it. It's in their mythology that there was a dragon. There was this thing, or whatever their version of it is. You can say, well, that was a dragon. So and typical of man, we probably killed them all, or
they,
hunted them down.
yeah,
But I think that that's one thing that I can say is real. That at one time, I don't know that it breathed fire and all that kind of stuff
yeah,
materially.
I think it did have acidic uh,
Hmm.
uh, elements. But the thing is, go back. This is why I love the way they do TV. And, I don't watch television and movies anymore like I used to. I'm looking at the agendas because they're sitting there right there telling you the truth. Right
Hmm.
there. It'll slide in. But a good one that, did you ever see The Blind Side?
No,
That,
I
okay.
don't think so. I don't think
That was
so.
with the black kid they adopted him. It was a white family and he was a football player. Blind side.
I kind of remember it, but I don't think I've seen it.
Well, I'm sitting there listening to this. Now I've seen this thing because I knew there was a lot of little things that you feel it, and you know how to feel what I'm talking about. Because you feel energy like I do. So because I'm sitting there and I'm feeling it, and all of a sudden it's Miss Pat is telling this black guy because she wants him to take a football scholarship to Mississippi. So, but what he's been offered to is in Tennessee, the state of Tennessee. So
Hmm.
then she starts telling the story, which I never heard anything like this before. She said, "You do know the football game field that you'll be playing will have a lot of dead bodies underneath it because that's the forensic vault that the FBI brings all of the murders and everything and puts them in there." And I thought, I've never even heard anything like that in my life.
No, me either.
Okay,
But there are those body farms all over Tennessee for some reason.
and see, but I was sitting there thinking, okay, see, they're going to slide because this is their rule. They cannot lie to us.
Right. That's part of the occult
Yeah,
end of it too. They can do in secret, and this goes for any kind of magic. You can do it in secret, but at some
that's it.
point, if you're doing especially dark magic or black magic, you're
Uh-huh.
obligated to show it to the world, basically. And that's why you see these, these celebrities doing crazy things and, coming out and showing the world
Oh, yeah.
what they've done in secret. But not everybody can put it together. But that's
Well,
part of it, especially if you're doing dark magic or
oh my,
satanic magic.
and you can feel every bit of that.
Hmm.
You know,
I have a
you just don't like
question.
this because when you see it
Hang
and
on,
all
Dean. I'm sorry, Dean. You have a question? Is that what you said?
I have a question.
Good.
You
yes,
had mentioned whenever you were sick one time that a reptilian hand was holding your hand.
yes.
Do, do you feel maybe that might have been extraterrestrial?
I don't know if it was. I think it's down in the ground myself. I think they live down in the ground. I think they've been there for a long, long time. And I because when you really look,
But you mentioned
and
it was
I
comforting. So you mentioned it was comforting, and
well, it was. It was.
I've heard
Well,
that from quite a few people that
well,
are abductees.
uh-huh.
That the extraterrestrial in
Right,
reptilian form came to comfort them at certain times, but most of them were on the spaceship at the time being
right.
abducted.
Mantises came into me too. I've seen them as well, praying mantises. They're big. And but
Mhm.
I, I really don't know if I know they exist because I can look in the mirror. And to be honest, I think I'm one of them. I think I'm a rebel. And I think that's why I can do some of the abilities that I can do and how I think. So, but I think I'm a rebel. And I think there's a lot of us that are rebels that are coming back. And
Well, as our government, I'll just add this in here for what it's worth. Recently, a member of our government, a congressman or a senator, I can't remember which, someone put the question to him about the UFO because they were having the hearings, about the UFOs and all this stuff and what the government knows and all that. And he said he couldn't talk. He said, I can't talk about it. He said, but I will tell you this. He said there's 4 areas in the Earth's oceans that they're looking at very closely.
Mhm.
And that there's 4 areas under our oceans that they're looking at, okay? And that means when you said underground, that they're intraterrestrial. They're not extra. They're not coming from another planet. They're in here with us, and they've been here since
forever.
Well, right. I mean, not living memory. I'm talking about, cosmic memory back to the beginning. They've been here, and they've interacted with every people on the earth. So like Dean was saying, they can comfort us when some of the other ones, the grays, for instance, or those insectoid things, they only like instill fear. But some people who encounter reptilians and making the jump, sometimes when people say they can see lizard people or they see, the reptile under the skin, I think it's because they have more of a humanity about them, that they must have transited at some point into human forms and they're more connected to mankind than the other things, right? And I'm just saying that underneath and coming from under the ground and all that has now been confirmed, at least insofar as the guy could confirm that, they're down there. And, none of this is, you have to understand, Virginia, none of this is comforting to me. I'm one of those people, I don't want it to come up out of the ocean. I don't want it to come, it's like, no. So
I think we're going to have, but I think a lot of this is fear based. And if you understand who you are and you know the abilities that you are, because I have confronted a lot of things, I've had things come in here that you can't imagine. And my mother died here. So I have her here. And then my daddy will come in. And I worked with my family with their cursed sins. There's a lot of opportunities here. And fear is what they want. They love, because we're loose. They suck. I could remember when I was a little girl and all of that fear, they would suck the energy out of me. And I could see it. I could feel it.
yeah.
So really got that message that, if you come to love, then you've got to really dig down in there to love yourself. To really love yourself, because you know every dirty thing you've ever thought, done, scratched your nose, pulled your nose, did boogers, whatever. You've got all these secrets, but you don't want anybody to know because we don't want to tell anything like that. But when you really come into that, and you get in it and you really go deep, why you're mad, what things are coming to you. Why? Is that me? Is that my mother? Was that my father? Was that my town? What? Because then you open up a whole new ball game of energy that you haven't, and your soul starts getting involved then. And the soul will take you down into a level, because that's what it wants. It wants out as much as you want out, but it wants even bigger because it knows the whole truth. Your soul and your spirit knows everything. It's been held back. And so this is the way that I say, that I'm looking at. And I've looked in the mirror. I know there's a dinosaur. Not a dinosaur. We don't have dinosaurs. There's dragons.
Go back to the dragons.
Yeah, well, I know that I come from a lineage. Now, I can't write it down to paper. I can't do that kind of stuff, but I know what I got, the information I got. And it came to me, and it's part of an ancient dynasty of dragons, because I've seen the dragon in my face. I don't have to, I go into mirror and I can disappear, I can look, I can do all of this, because I was a bird, I was this. When you get run through all of your stuff, you thin out. And we got to start thinning out, letting go of the things that we've been programmed to think we know. We don't know anything.
Well, I have
And
a question. I have a question about two things. One of which I read in your bio about quantum physics and
yeah,
quantum science, and the
yeah.
other thing that comes to mind is AI. What is your take on that, and how did you find connections to quantum science and quantum physics?
Well, I have a background in science and I taught
Yeah.
physics to sixth graders. And all the way you have to do understand this process is you all have to do is we're not teaching. Education is so bad. And I was an educator because they're not teaching you the real experience of what education should be. When I had my near death experience, I knew about quantum. I knew about light. I did light theory, heat theory. I did all of the whole sciences, the biology of the earth, all of this because I did, 6, 7. Well, no, I did 6 for that year. But that's what I'm saying. But when I went over, I had an experience of quantum the first time that I've ever experienced. You don't need about mathematics. You're just particles in
Mm-hmm.
light. And it gave me an insight of how we really work. We've been lied to. We've been lied about our brain, about everything. Everything in this body has that's why Kabbalah, they know exactly what they're talking about with the Kabbalah. And I taught, now check this out. I was in Chicago, outside of Chicago, and Jews called me in, and I stayed for a week teaching there. I'm a Gentile. I mean, they even let me touch the Torahs.
So you were teaching
Yeah. Well,
Kabbalistic concepts, or what were you teaching to them?
is I was there because I'm an animal communicator. He had a beagle dog named Einstein. Einstein came over because I was with my dear friend Howie, who invited me for Chicago to come for Thanksgiving, my first Thanksgiving as a divorced woman to be.
Mm.
And he's known me. His mother lived next door to my mother, which I'm in her house now, our house. But so I remember he was sitting there and he was telling me about Jews. You got to be very careful. And this rabbi he was getting him some trousers because Howie had a very nice tailor for men and women. So, and he said, you got to, if he extends his hand, you can shake it. If he doesn't, I mean, it was like this really rules. And I thought, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of rules, shit. So then I went like this, and so the next thing I know, Einstein is coming down, and he's talking to me, and Howie looked at me and said, "Is that dog talking to you?" I said, "Yes, he is." And he was telling a lot of stuff. Boy, was he telling things, and I went, and then I felt it, and then here comes the rabbi, and I jump up and I grab his hand, and I said, "I've got a lot to tell you, and you cannot leave here." And he was like, "Oh my." So and Howie is about ready to die right there. He wants to die. This is a client. And
Mm-hmm.
so he asked me, why do I know that? It's because I said, you've been praying, and I know exactly you've been praying. And he had a deaf temple. He had with deaf, he
Mm-hmm.
worked and it was a temple for that. And so I said, he felt like a failure. And that's what his Einstein was telling me he was a failure. That's what he was getting ready to. I think he was getting ready to resign to go to somewhere else. And I just looked at him. I said, you can't do that. I said, God will not allow it. And blah, 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 blah. And it just came out of my mouth.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember all of it, that it was, blah, 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 but it all came. I said, you're going to build this place up. The temple's going to be bigger, blah, 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 blah. And he looked at me and he said, just a minute. He calls this lady, the secretary, out, and he says to her, he says, have you been talking to her? And she, no. He said, has anybody been talking to her? He said, well, the only one she's been talking to is Einstein and Howie, my
Mm-hmm.
friend. And he said, oh. And then he turned and he said, okay. He said, how do you know this? how do you know any of this? I said, because then I started telling him I had a near death experience. God comes to me and blah, 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 blah. And he looked at me and he said, and then I thought, oh my God, what have I done? What's wrong with me? I'm just, I mean, I freaked out. And there's Howie, and he doesn't know what to say. I mean, he wasn't expecting any of that. None of us did. And it was, I mean, it was snowing that night. I mean, when we were still there, and I mean, it was like crazy. So I remember saying, then I thought, well, okay. I said, well, look, I am a teacher. I've got a graduate degree. And he looked at me. He said, I don't care what kind of degree you got. You've been degreed by God. When can I fly you back in here? And
Hmm.
that's how. And people were healed there, not by me, but showing them how they could change their minds. And they had to
Mhm.
go through different things. I mean, I took one woman down to, it looked like a dungeon, like a castle dungeon. And when we walked out down there was a long hallway, and there was a door at the very end. So supernatural. And I'm right inside of her head. I'm not in physically body. She's not in physical body. We're sitting there in a table, but this is where our minds have gone with us. Okay. And
Mhm.
she's walking the hallway, and the knob of the door kept lights up like fire. And I said, "Ooh, this is it." She said, "I'm scared." I said, "You'll be fine. You'll be fine." I talked her all the way through, and she was getting ready to, and she's backed off. And I could feel, I mean, I felt her back off, with me. And I said, and then I gave her a sword, a very powerful sword. And I said, when you walk through that door, you're going to open it, and you're going to hold it up between your two hands, and you're going to say, there's more peace now. You do not exist. I don't need you. And see what happened. Sure enough, she walked through that door. Now we had to go through the heat of the door, because that's the fear. That is the real fear. And when we walked through the fear, it was a red dragon. And when she stood, then she put that sword up, and said, I'm the peace, and you don't really exist. It turned into sand.
The sand.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I was sued in Illinois by all the psychotherapists, because their clients were coming to me and they were getting healed. And they tried to, well, they were suing me for $10,000. And thank God, 3 years prior, the Holy Spirit said to me, you need to become a minister. And there is a $5 on the internet, and you can get minister license. Because I also was doing Reiki. I have a master, well, a Reiki master. I'm a Reiki master too. So, and I thought, I am not going to buy a $5, like a graduate thing, that I was a minister of this church. Thank God I did. They would have ripped me to pieces. Once I got that, and seeing I was working with my lawyer, my divorce attorney, we traded. I taught him how to do this work, and he's taught me how to do law.
Hmm.
Yeah, I've had some profound experiences with all of this.
It sounds like it. So what do you feel about artificial intelligence? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, that's a control I don't like apps or anything, because I have some men right now that are having problems with pornography because they've got an app, and all
Yeah.
they're not being disciplined as the mind. I'm doing this with my nephew, and because he's 26 years old, and there's a lot of them like this, because you've got to get them out of their mind. But if you got a damn app, and if you've got an AI that's always telling you, well, first of all, I can tell you for a fact, I know this for a fact. I had a client that came in, and she said, Jenny, I have got the worst headache. Well, I started looking at her Fitbit, and I realized, because she wanted me to buy one. She said, I'm going to buy you a Fitbit. And I don't wear things. I stopped wearing watches, rings, and everything, because it's too encumbersome because of the electricity in my body. So I remember she said, I want to get you that. And I said, well, first, let's just put yours on. The minute I put that on my wrist, I didn't even tie it. I went, a jolt of electricity went through. I said, stop. And I pulled that off. I said, get the Fitbit off, throw it
Mm-hmm.
away. I said, because first of all, think about it. You're in you're in a collective cloud. So nobody, you're being programmed by a program to not even be creative. Just this is what you need, your 10 steps. I mean, I thought, oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
Now you see what I'm telling you about AI. It's incorrect. It's
Right.
so correct that well, but the Terminator, they gave you that. I think that was what, in the 80s? They
Yeah.
were telling you exactly what they wanted. And this is exactly what, and also Will Smith did a whole thing on robots. Look what they're
Yeah.
telling you. No different that they did with the pandemic. I love the pandemic because I went back all of the 80s. We had pandemic, we had the virus, we had everything. They were pre-programming everybody in the 80s to be hitting us by the 20s.
Of course they were. Of course they
And,
are.
and this is
They were programming back in the early 1900s.
yeah, well, when they did the World Fair, I mean, come
Yeah.
on, the World's Fair. I
And
mean, they
the world wars. Don't forget those. Those were mass programming events. I mean, you know.
So how do you break it? If you break it through breaking through the collective, because they need us. They cannot do anything if we don't agree. And they know it. And everybody says, well, we're not agreeing. Oh, yes, you do. You agree with red and white and blue. They have oh, Lordy, Lordy, Lordy. Good. They're good. I mean, only reason why I got involved in all of that is because I saw it. I saw
Mm-hmm.
the mythology first. I started, but also, well, no, witches, working with witches.
Mm-hmm.
The witches that weren't nice.
There's a lot of them. Tell us about that.
Well, they were, what it was is they were bringing in the shaman, and and with the bad ayahuasca. See, I always wanted to try ayahuasca. I did shrooms when I was 60. And that, I
I'm
have a
sorry.
what?
Nothing. You waited till you were 60.
Yeah. Well, I did marijuana when I was in college, and I
Okay.
still, and if I can find some, I certainly will. I don't mind that at all because I wish people would realize. Because first of all, if you're going to, and I can tell you the whole thing about that, because they're trying to numb. I don't want you to numb with marijuana. Marijuana is probably the only reason why I think marijuana is the best one out of all of them is this, because of Kathy O'Brien. Did you ever hear what she talked about? Because she
Mm-mm.
was trafficked, and and her daughter was involved in it. Our family was an occultist, and they were involved in all of that. You never heard of Kathy O'Brien?
Maybe.
Oh
It's
my God.
it's not ringing a bell right now.
Well, get a chance and look her up, because the first time I ever heard her audio upset me so bad it took me 3 to 4 weeks just to be able to.
What was it about? I mean, I may have, and just
Well,
I'm not associating the name.
she was programmed. She had the mind controlled, and she
Uh-huh.
was doll, and she was with the Clintons, Hillary and Bill. She
Mm-hmm.
was passed over here. I mean, you have no idea how much this stuff what goes on here. And these congressmen and everything and what they do. This is why Diddy's in trouble, because they're all
Did he? Yeah, he's in trouble. Boy, is he.
the sad
Yeah, that's, I mean, we're coming out, yeah, I agree with you. And they've got them by the proverbial balls, believe
yeah,
me.
but the thing
Um,
is, not getting to the ones out. Those the puppets. Those the ones that are
oh,
paying.
yeah.
Now, I
Oh,
want to know.
yeah.
I want to know who's on the top. And I mean, it's not Trump, because Trump is another. Look at all his symbology. He sits right there and he shows you what he is, who he is. He's a Jesuit. He's
Well,
a right.
he's
You
a
know,
folk hero right now. That's all I know. But,
yes, he's a savior. Now, this is, if anybody's
well,
is an antichrist, this will be the best one to come in. And he's also talking about the third temple. Anytime you're talking about the third temple, he's already in Solomon. He's in magic.
Well, his head is on the temple shekel, the third temple shekel. It's on it with Cyrus the Great. They've already issued the shekels. So nobody really, I mean, this is just my opinion, but nobody should be looking forward to the establishment of that third temple, because they intend to establish it right where that mosque is in Jerusalem. And that is going to plunge this world into a living hell. And they intend to do it, and they may do it during his administration.
No, they'll do it because he is a part of them.
Well, true, but voting, the thing that when people were kind of like, I'm not going to vote for him. The thing about him is everybody should think beyond him. Okay. They don't fear Trump as much as they fear the movement and the mindset that it has created in the American people. And Americans are not going to go back to that, but there has to be something after him. And it ain't J.D. Vance, and it ain't any of that. But what we're moving toward, we couldn't get there if he had not been elected. We would have, that's all I can say. It's like, it's setting us up in a better place. And there's a lot about him that people don't look at, but he is the best choice for right now. He will do a lot of good, but he's also going to do what a lot of people want. And I mean, I don't want to stray too much into politics, but he's got people that are telling him what to do too. And he's going to, satisfying what they want may plunge this world into a complete nightmare. But we have to think beyond all of that.
That's what I was concerned about, is because several things he said. When he said he wanted to do 6G and he wanted to go all the way up to 7 or 8, I thought that'll I don't think people have any understanding how it affects the hell out of me, the Wi-Fi, all of that anymore. I'm very sensitive. So when he said that, I knew then, because there's a lot of things he says that people don't catch, because he's calling it technology. I'm calling it frying the hell out of us.
Well, that's true. And it isn't just sensitive, people like you. It isn't just, gifted people. It's regular people are getting affected by just people who live near them. It's like going in Walmart, and having to do a whole grocery order in Walmart. And I don't know what it is. It's like, it's like being inside, a 5G signal. It's like, God, I got to get out of here. There's this.
What Kroger's like too. Anywhere these big stores that have all the refrigerators and they're running all that kind of electricity, we're beings. The minute I can't go in there, and this is truth, I'll be sitting in. I said, I really need to go to the grocery. Not yet. I have to with my higher self says go now. Now, usually when I say go now, there's going to be somebody I'm going to meet, and it usually is. And it's something. It's got to be the timing, and I know how timing. That's why I said I'm not worried about what's going to happen, because I know that I will listen. And this is what people don't understand either. You've got to learn to listen and not judge it. If I had not practiced for 5 years to get out of my marriage and out of that house at that time, I wouldn't have been, you wouldn't have ever met me. I'd been dead by that time.
Wow.
Because it was very clear, but I practiced for 5 years to listen to that voice. And soon as it said, I mean, it wasn't harsh. It wasn't scary. It said, you need to leave now. It's matter of fact. It's always matter of fact. And I didn't even hesitate. That's a practice.
Oh, that's good.
Because if you don't learn not to hesitate, you'll be taken where you need to go. Think about it, just seconds, because what we're dealing with. You gotta say, oh my God, I don't know if that is that you. Too late.
Yeah.
That's what people don't understand. They haven't. This is what I'm concerned about more than anything. How many people have been lied to, have had this false understanding of what God really is, and they think they have a relationship, and you'll find out if you have a relationship or not. So
you will.
Yeah,
they've been lied to about everything. I mean, everything. They trust all the wrong people. I mean,
Oh my
Even
God.
and you're asking who's in charge and who's above Trump. The answer is very clear. It's out there. I can't say, but it's right in front of you. And that's the problem. That is the problem. It's
Well, I
the
think
top it's the very top. That's the problem. And I
well, and
mean, that's why thinking beyond just this, this one, I mean, America, the country is there. It is set apart. It's spiritually important to this world.
oh,
It is. It can't go down because the light will go from the world. I mean, really, it cannot go down because there will be no hope.
this would be the Lord of the Rings.
This would be what? I'm sorry.
The Lord of the Rings. That's what it is. Going back
Yeah.
to the Lord of the Rings. I mean, we're going back to the Middle Ages. This is exactly what happened in the Middle Ages. So
I happen to be a fan of the Middle Ages, but I don't know that I want to go back to.
I was Joan of Arc at one time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, well, now let me explain how that works. I was introduced to her when I was 15 years old, and I was in a beauty contest. And I mean, in the 50s, I mean, this would have been the early 60s, I guess, when I was about 16. And I remember when she came in and she said, they were asking, first they said, there were some different questions, but the major question was, living or dead, who would you want to be? Now, I was listening because, I mean, we're at a little, high school thing. And so I remember I could hear the question and I thought, now I wonder, and I'm thinking about it. I was with these other women, girls, we're all sitting back, and this beautiful voice said, say Joan. And I thought, who's Joan? She said, Joan of Arc. Now, Joan of Arc. And it was so funny because I thought, what in the world is that about? So when I got up there I mean, it was such a shock. The whole world, you were Joan of Arc, because she died, she died. And
Terribly. He died bad.
Yeah.
He had a bad death.
Yeah, well, and so when he said, Jenny, why did you do that? Why did you say this? I said, because she believed in what she was doing. And
Yeah.
everything else just got real still because it was really a truth that I thought at that time. Now, I was with two clients one day, and Joan came back in, and they sat and watched me do this. I fell to my knees, and I just started just weeping of what I'd done. Now, I've never heard this kind of story about Joan of Arc. I've never heard, and she started this, what was imagery, what it was, said, see what you've done. And I was seeing the horrible things that was done, the horses, the animals, people everywhere. It was horrible what went on. And it told me, said, you didn't believe in what the message was. You went to the king in fear, but you created fear. If you had given him the love that I had sent the message with, he would never have done that kind of thought. And I went, it's my fault. I was a bad messenger. And I had to look at that and I felt it. I felt, next time you'll know what was the message. Don't go into fear. Look at the real truth in the message. And that was and I mean, that was a couple that was here and they just stared at me. They said, do you do this often? I said, not all the time.
Just every now and then.
Well, I can do it when I'm walking through the living room. I'll fall to my knees and I'll have a moment of, and I might not know exactly what it is. But I'll just fall into tears because to be able to even understand this, to experience this is divine. It's divine. And I think that's what a lot of people are seeking is that divineness, but they don't know how to achieve it. And it's real simple.
And so so we're about wrapping up now. So So do you work with people who find you basically or led to you? But tell us about your work and how you help the public and other people who are going through this.
I work with, I've been working with clients for 27 years, but I was
Mhm.
also a social worker. So I have, and I do not have a license because I was not allowed to give the license because when I got into all of this, I had to lose all of my license, all of my certifications because that's the world of man. I don't live in
Mhm.
that world. So, and thank God I don't. But so what I do is I don't really know what I do, to be honest. The soul brings them here, and I can look through their soul and I can find out. But now I'm gonna tell you, I have a lot of people who want to come in and because I have my website, so they can go in my website and they can get a personal, uh, session. However, you're not going to learn this in 1 hour. I'm going to tell you something because you got to go through all the programming. You've got to go through everything that has held you back in the first place. It's a whole different. I mean, I've been working on it for 27 years or better, and I still will have to go in. And I mean, that's all we're here to do is to learn who we really are, not by the programs we've been told,
Mhm.
because we live in a prison. So it's time now to get out of the prison. That's what I do is I find out, everybody will have a different experience because I have clients that they know each other and they say, when I can go in there, I can usually just go in, I just start crying just looking at her. That's
So,
and
so you can be contacted through your website.
yeah,
Okay.
yes.
What is that, Virginia?
It is oh my gosh. Can I give it to
I
you?
know.
Didn't I send that to you?
You did. You did. I can add it into
Okay,
at
just
some point into the
yeah,
description
yeah.
of the video, so
And
any listeners can look down there.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
I always forget that one. Like I said, that little video that's gone into, I had to get a website. I had to get all of this stuff that I don't normally get. I had to
Hmm.
hire a producer. So it was just like, oh my God, what is this? So that's why I don't understand what the website, and I do know it. It's just, I don't know it personally like that. Like
Oh,
everybody
that's fine because we can put all that information into the description of the video, which anybody listening can look down below and find it. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and we want to invite you back for another great show because this is fascinating, and I mean your life is very fascinating, and I
can.
appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that because I could feel you too, that you really understand what I'm saying. Now think about it. I'd be talking like this to an everyday person and they're going, mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Or they don't want to throw their eyes out at you or anything, but really? Yeah, that really does happen. So
Right?
thank you for being very kind
Yes.
and
Well,
listening.
and again, we want you to come on back in the new year, and we can go more into it and whatever's going on with you at the time. That will be great to have
Okay,
you back.
send me a date or, like we did before, and then we'll
Uh-huh.
work it out. Okay.
Bernadine will be in touch with you on that. Well, I just want to wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holidays. And again, thank you for joining us on
Well,
the
thank
Supernatural
you.
Substation.
Well, thank you for inviting me and thank you for us getting it, finally got it together. So I think I got it now, so it won't be such a big deal.
It was the right time.
Yes, it was. It's all in the time. Have a wonderful holiday, both of you all, and just relax.
Yeah.
Everything good. That's what.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
You
Thank
Bye.
too.
you.
Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye-bye.
We'd like to thank our amazing guest, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's show. If you have, please give us a like and a share, and please consider subscribing to our channel. We'll be back soon with another great guest. And as always, thanks for listening, and good night.